interviews with these kind of big companies can be hit and miss. It's so hard to figure out how to ask someone questions when they are actually the right candidate, but they just didn't do a good job in the interview. It's like an exam. But horses are very interesting creatures, and not a lot of technology has been done in that field. And that's bad. Like if I wanted something out of it, I should do it. And I get so nervous that I feel like it can definitely make you look, like stick out from the crowd a lot easier. Hello, everyone. My name is Farhan. I used to work on the Apple Vision Pro, and now I build companies all the way from robots to startups for horses. And I have Sohan here with me, one of my business partners that helped create, side note, a Kickstarter project that got over $30,000 in 1 month. And we're working on multiple products and multiple brands. And we are here to talk about life in general and about what it's like to work in big tech at Apple and those kind of things. And actually, we have a special guest today that I'll bring in later.
Oh, that's exciting. I didn't know that. Okay. I am pretty pumped. On that note, why don't we just start with like how was your day today? I know you had something pretty big going on in the morning. Do you mind sharing a little bit about it?
Well, I woke up really early.
Okay.
That's it. That's the big thing. But no, just before this, actually, a few minutes ago, I interviewed with SpaceX.
Oh,
I was sad not to see Elon there. I was expecting him to be there, but he's a busy man.
fair.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's fair.
yeah.
So, when are you landing on Mars?
Oh man. I don't know. I'm building the rockets to land on Mars. If I design it
Oh,
well
okay.
enough, then I don't mind taking them to Mars. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, the interview was actually very interesting. It was a lot. It was more chill than expected, to be honest. Interviews with these kind of big companies can be hit and miss. You don't know what to expect typically, I think. Yeah, and it's good to over prepare technically, because like sometimes they ask you like these crazy technical questions and they dive deep and all this stuff, and sometimes they don't. But I do think one thing about interviews in general that I don't like is it's so hard to figure out how to ask someone questions when they are actually the right candidate, but they just didn't do a good job in the interview. It's like an exam. You're preparing to write an exam, and a lot of people are really good at writing exams, and a lot of people aren't. I am not
Yeah,
bad at
that's
doing
fair.
interviews, but I know a lot of people who are good candidates just don't know how to do interviews well. And there's the opposite. Some people just know how to do amazing interviews and they're kind of crappy candidates. So, yeah.
It's a good point. Do you think it's kind of like a systematic thing, or do you think there's just no way to avoid this kind of assessment, I guess, to hire?
So, let me tell you about how Apple did it for me. I call it like the Navy SEALs of Apple, my team, by the way. We were like just a selected handful of people, and it was very, very rigorous to get into this team. I don't know if it's the right way, but I'll tell you how they do it. And it does help assess it well, but it's a lot of time, which is we start with phone screening with a recruiter. And then after the phone screening with the recruiter, we go into a phone screen with a hiring manager and then maybe even a director, like higher and higher level. And they try to understand in these, are you technically like fit? Like, do you know a little bit about like the technical side of it? And on top of that, how well of a culture fit you'd be. Are you interesting? Are you easy to talk to? I mean, it depends on the culture, but like that was that team. And after that, at that time, they flew me out to California. That was the first time I got that interview, and that's one of the first times I flew to California in my life. And they gave me
From Canada?
yeah, from Fredericton all the way
Okay.
East Coast. I went from East Coast to West Coast. That's a 9 hour total journey. It was like 2 hour flight to Toronto, and then 5 hour flight from Toronto to here. And then I took another Uber, another hour down to Cupertino-ish area because that's where the interviews were, and that's another like hour drive. So like it's just like driving and flying to get to talk to people at Apple. And they got the tickets, they got everything, they booked it for me and all this stuff. And then they also gave me some stipend to use to pay for food and all this stuff. There's actually a bigger, if anyone wants to know about my story and how I got into Apple, I'll share it. But this, I'm just going to be more general now. They bring me in
Okay.
and there's two interviews. It's a one whole day interview with 10 like 10 people asking me questions, like not sorry, 10 interviews
Wow.
back to back. It's
Okay.
ranges from technical questions like, was it do this draw this free body diagram here? What material would you use here? What's the difference between aluminum and steel, right? Even what's the difference between a 6061 and 6063 aluminum? And yeah, actually they don't ask you that, but you get the picture. It's like very, very tough.
Yeah.
And and then they'll also do behavioral stuff. They'll ask you like some brain teaser things sometimes, depending on who's hiring, which person's hiring, and then eventually, you once you're done all of those 10 interviews, if you're good enough, they give you a design challenge that you've pre-prepared. So I had prepared this design challenge before, where they gave me a question, and if you guys want to know about those design challenges, let me know. But like this, it's like I had to design a 3D model of something, right? And they check that. If you're good enough, then they bring you on site. So I forgot to say that they do both a design challenge and they do the phone screening. And then if you're good enough, then they bring you on site. And then if you do okay on the first of those 10 interviews, then they tell you, okay, come and present to us. Then you come the next day and you do a 1 hour presentation where all of those 10 people are there sitting around the table grilling you about every single detail of your presentation. And then if that goes well, then you get the offer. Now, you asked me, are these processes good or is this like the right way to interview? I know that they were able to uncover some of the best uh, engineers like that. But whether or not it's the best, I think it depends because like it takes a lot of time to do that kind of interview, right? So that's my main beef with it is that it takes a whole bunch of time to do all that interview, all those interviews, and then eventually you may or may not select the candidate, and it takes a lot of time. I would say even sometimes it wastes the time of the interviewer and the candidate. So, is there a better
I
way? I
see.
don't know, but it is a way that it's done in the industry right now. Yeah.
So I guess with you, you made it through all the steps. So we know what happens when you make through all the steps. So for the people who finished halfway through, did they get sent back home or did they still get to stick around and spend their stipend money?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a whole bunch of money, just enough for food, to be honest. Unless you go to
Okay.
McDonald's and you might save half of it every single meal, or Tim Hortons or wherever you. But yeah, you get to spend the time. I think they want you to take a look at the city a bit and all this stuff, and you have basically a day. You since you have both days, like they book you for both the days, right? In case you get the presentation. But if you don't have the presentation the next day, at least you have the whole day to chill and then go take the flight that night. So yeah.
No, that's fair. Do you find like because the way you talked about your Apple interview process, it seemed pretty rigorous, like you mentioned. Do you find it's the same kind of standard that other like you've had the opportunity to interview and work at like other big companies as well? Do you think it's the same process more or less, or it's just how Apple works that way?
Yeah, it's about the same everywhere I've done it. It's with varying degrees. After COVID, they don't really fly people out as much anymore, even Apple. But some people do. For example, SpaceX. If I do well on that interview, this first one, they will actually fly me out and to Austin, where they have that their headquarters or one of their headquarters. And so, yeah. So it depends on the team. It depends on the company. Some of them just like to do the virtual one. So yeah, I think it depends. But the bigger companies typically still do the rigorous, like multi-day thing, right?
Okay. No, that's very interesting. I guess like a lot of people, especially who are not chasing those like big companies, they don't really get to see the amount of work you have to put in to get into them. I guess like now, why don't we just like step back a little bit and like why don't you share your experience just getting these interviews? Because I think like there's just multiple steps. Is first you have to secure an interview, and I am assuming it's quite the process to get an interview too, because you just don't
Yeah.
apply and they just reach out to you. So how does that process work?
I mean, if you're good enough, they will reach out to you. And so like they do look for people. Like so if you have LinkedIn and stuff, that typically I would recommend post a lot of stuff and talk about what you've done and show what you keep doing and make sure your profile's up to date and all this kind of stuff and comment on things. They do reach out. So don't the power of LinkedIn is very high, or like the power of like of like outreach, inbound it's called, like getting people to reach out to you. But the way that it works is you do what's called outbound. You're kind of reaching out to people. And so if you have active LinkedIn, if you have like an active GitHub or whatever, people will find you and the recruiters will find you. But even then, like if you have it active and you reach out to recruiter, they get to see who you are. So that's also a bonus. So uh in terms of actually getting an interview, um it's you got to know firstly it's like luck as well. getting noticed by the recruiter, getting past the ATS system. So most of these big companies, they get how many thousands of interviews, resumes a day. One person cannot go through all of them, by the way. So they have a system. These companies have a system that automatically figures out who the best candidates are. They put in the keywords. It's kind of like an AI. It knows, like, okay, say you're doing mechanical engineering, you want to know CAD, you want to know 3D modeling, you want to know material science, all this stuff. You put these keywords in, the system looks at the resumes, compares them to the keywords, and if it's a very rudimentary uh, system, if you don't have a single keyword, then you're not even going to get selected for an interview. A more complex one
Oh,
kind of
okay.
knows that, hey, you're a little bit away, maybe 50% within it, all that stuff, or it can interpret from the bullets that you have that you're close enough, and so they'll bring you in. So you need to definitely make sure that you have all the keywords that the job has in your resume so that that you could get selected. That's one of them. So it's a little bit of that game. And on top of that, you need to be impressive on your resume. Impressive, and you need to show accomplishments more than what you did. Most people just put a job description in their resume. I was tasked to do this and this and this. But typically what stands out for these kind of companies, you accomplished this in your time. You got this much, you built this from scratch. You were able to increase the yield by this. Your AI was this efficient. You made this much money, that kind of stuff, right? And those look
Right.
really good on resumes because it's like it's showing you as an action oriented person, especially for the big companies. If you go to like random ones, you can just put your job description. They're like, yeah, I want someone with the same job description. But if you want to be like in Apple or Google or whatever, then it's like these guys want to only hire the best. And the way that you show them you're the best is by proving to them that you're the best. Yeah.
I see. So I guess like the main takeaway is to have a resume with more action words that do result.
Yeah.
Um,
And
okay,
again,
and
it's also, even with all that, you may not get the interview. Just remember that.
okay.
Like, there's a
Is there
high
like a
chance.
number you have like that? Okay, this is like the
Yeah.
percentage, so people don't get disappointed applying to like 10 jobs and not getting an interview.
I would say like there's no harm in interviewing too much. If you're actually looking for a job, just apply to everything you can, and then just say
Okay.
I can't take it anymore for the ones that you don't want, right? But
Okay.
I would say like it depends. It depends. It's very variable. Some people like say it's also dependent on the season. Like, is it like hiring season? Or is there a lot of money going into the industry? All this kind of stuff. Is the company doing well? These kind of things, or is there like a recession, hiring freeze, all this kind of stuff? You have to take a look at that. But say it's like average gets about you can get about 10 to 20% of the interviews if you do a proper resume, but sometimes it's like as low as 1 to 5%. So yeah, I would say monitor the you'll know, you'll have a gut feeling of, are there a lot of job postings, are there a lot of people hiring at the time. You'll figure that out pretty quickly, but apply to more than you think. Yeah.
No, that's fair. It's a good kind of number to have. And I guess on that note, another thing that I guess a lot of people, especially from where you are, where you're staying right now, is there's like a lot of startups and companies that are emerging that also try to hire some of the best engineers. So how like just like I guess like walk me through if you like the experience of working for the startup or the hiring process compared to like the big companies. Is it the same standard or they're even more nitty gritty when it comes to hiring people?
I think it depends on how much funding they have and how much flexibility these startups have. For example, I just heard this morning Brian Chesky, when he was hiring for Airbnb, would ask, if you were to die within the next year, would you still be wanting to work for Airbnb? And if you're like no, then he wouldn't
Wow.
hire you, because he wants you to have full conviction working with him, right?
No.
But now he changed it to like, in the next 10 years, if you died, would you still want to work for Airbnb? So some of these companies really want, and they take their time to hire, and they don't have that much money either, right? So they need to hire the best people as soon as they can, but they will not rush to hiring it if someone's like, okay, because a very early startup will, like, you can die. That startup can like totally collapse if they have the wrong hires. So they'll take their time. Easier, I would say, like 10 to 20 startup, 10 to 20 employees, because those they can take a little bit more of a risk. They can train you a bit more, but they're still looking for people who are pretty good and excellent. I would say 20 to 100 is like a bit less of an issue. You are more interested in them. Like, let's look at it this way. They're earlier startups, they're also interested in you to be the leader of their company in the future. You need to fill in a lot of different shoes and all this kind of stuff. So you might be an amazing Apple engineer, but they may not want you because you're just too like special at like you're too much of a specialist at what you do, and so they're not going to hire you. But if you go to like a middle-sized startup, like again 20 to 100, you might just be doing the same kind of job you're doing at Apple, but like you just do it so well that they need that thing. So maybe you're very, very good at like, I don't know, like material science. They'll bring you in and they'll make you become the material science expert in the company because they need that. But if you only know material science, they will not hire you till then because you're not going to be general enough for all the other stuff that's needed. So it is scrutinous depending on which stage it is, what startup it is, how much money they have. But typically, I think the startups, if it's a good startup, they'll be a lot harder to get into than a good big company because they will be a lot more, they will vet a lot more. But it's easier to get in front of them because there's a lot fewer people applying to them. So, like, it kind of, you might be lucky that way.
No, that makes sense. I guess like another topic that I wanted to just quickly touch up is especially with the Gen Z, they a lot of them they don't want to do school, they don't want to go get a technical degree, but they still are very passionate about building things, especially like stuff like professions like engineering and building things which require you to have technical, I guess, knowledge and stuff. What would you say the situation right now is? Do you think like you have to have a lot of credentials to even qualify for this position, or you can still pursue your passion and work for these big companies with even if you don't have credentials?
So, like, are you saying, like, do you need to have like a certificate or
Degrees.
some degree? Yeah.
Yeah, say I have to go to MIT to like get hired at I don't know,
Mm,
maybe like a big startup or work for Tesla, for example, like or
yeah.
SpaceX, like because you have a very good academic career in the sense that you did a lot of projects and stuff, right?
Mm.
Would you say if you had not done them, it would have been kind of like a blockade in your way of applying to or getting to all these places, or do you think you would have been fine?
Yeah. I heard recently that the best place to get degrees is in a pharmacy because then you can buy a thermometer. They're jam packed full of degrees. but
Oh, that's new information.
but no, I mean, there's a little bit of truth to like both. Meaning, I think it depends again. Like some companies don't care, some companies do care. Some hiring managers care, some hiring managers don't care. At the end of the day, I think you just need to show them that you're outstanding somehow. Like, what have you done that's interesting? Is it your uh, like your university? Like, if you went to Harvard or Stanford, MIT, it does look good on your resume because it's like it is a hard university to get into, hard university to graduate from because it shows like commitment and grit and hard work. But if you don't have a chance to go to those, it's not that important if you've done like great projects in your life, right? Like great interesting things that have helped you learn outside of university, whether they're big projects, whether they're just like interesting, like yeah, side things that to help you learn. Or like maybe you did internships with some like smaller companies or whatever, right? Or startups, or try to help a startup build something, right? It can definitely make you look, like stick out from the crowd a lot easier. But on top of that, what is important is like the applied sciences. Like, are you applying what you're learning? That's why I think I got an easy job of getting those interviews. One way that I would suggest that if I was younger and if I could do it better and I would have done really well for myself is documenting it very well on Instagram or YouTube or something, what you're doing. So you can easily direct them to those places to see, hey, this is legit stuff that I've been doing. So I at least took pictures and all those things over time. But like documenting as you go can make it really good for you because you're showing the world what you're up to and you're getting a following and they might reach out to you from that. So actually like Mark Rober right now, he's super famous. Why?
Yeah.
Because he took his time to document everything he's doing and he's like, he's doing really interesting stuff that people are really enjoying. But he 10 years later that he started 10 years ago. Now he's like super famous and everything. But he did it for a decade before he's like this famous, right? So it's like that for you. You're going to be graduating after 4 years. Document every year of that journey, and over time, people follow you. You'll be more known, and it will be social proof to hiring managers or to even to startups or whatever, even to yourself, if you want to do your own thing, that you've done all this at the back in the back end. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's a very good perspective, I guess. So the takeaway is to document as much as you can and
Yeah.
apply the knowledge you gain. It doesn't matter if it's from a degree or pharmacy. I
Yeah.
just gotta keep flying. Okay, no, that's I guess that's good to know. On a side note, just wanted to, is that a custom edition Yeti? I see a very special logo at the back.
All this here,
Yeah.
it's a collaboration with Noble Crafters.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's very cool.
Yeah.
No, it's I guess the another thing is like, do you have any very like interesting story about interviews or all these like, ventures applying for jobs that you want to share? Like something out of the ordinary, something funny or like crazy?
Oh man, did I tell you about my first interview ever in my life?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, my first interview ever was at Waterloo University for my first internship, and I applied to 186 jobs, just so you know. And I had a
Okay,
one
wow.
interview, and I needed to get this job because if I didn't, I would like not pass the, I would not get the credit for like working at a company, and that would suck. So I had one interview. It just happened, and I'm like, okay, crap, I have this interview. I got to do this. I got to do this as well as I can. And I come into this interview. It was for this technical support role, which is basically helping with like computers and all the software stuff. I didn't know at the time, but it's like, okay, I'm a robotics engineer. I can do this. I don't know what technical support is, but it sounds technical. It sounds like support. I'm here. I'm here to be technical, and I'm here to help. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Do this. And I'm doing the interviews. Like, what do you do? All this stuff. And the guy's just sitting there, like, looking at me, thinking, looking at my resume and all this stuff. He's just chilling. He's like, it's like as if he's just passing the time. And he's like, hey, man, in your resume, you said that you did magic tricks. You're a magician. Can you
Okay.
show me a magic trick? And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh.
Huh,
Last
okay.
I expected was to do magic. And anyways, I only like one I don't I usually don't feel good about doing magic and all this kind of stuff. I get like nervous and all this. And over time I was like, okay, maybe I'll do it next time. Maybe if you hire me, and like I'm trying to make all these excuses, right? And he's like, no, no, man. Like next time, you know what you got to do? You got to prepare. You got to come and prepare to do magic. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, why do you need to get prepared to do magic? It's like, look, you put on your resume, you got to be prepared. I'm like, listen, I get really, really nervous whenever I do interviews, and I get so nervous that I feel like I feel like throwing up, and then I did
Whoa.
that.
Okay, that was a
And then
really
he's
good
like,
one.
oh, okay, cool. That was cool. And then that was it. I was like, that's it. That's all you're gonna ask me? Is like, yeah, okay. Thanks for the interview. And I'm like, okay. And I walked out. I'm like, whatever. I'm gonna just like wash the dishes for my summer. And then I got a call. I was like, yo, you got the job. And I got that job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's a very cool story. It's funny that you really performed on spot and got the
Yeah.
job. Wow.
Yeah.
No,
That's it.
that's very cool. Any other uh occasions that you had to perform magics other than interviews to
Yeah.
get the job done?
My actual first job in my life was a magician. So in high school, I was like I used to
Okay.
perform at at like different events, like whether they're like medical like conferences or like high school graduations or whatever. Like I was a clown. They hired the clown and I came in. No, I'm kidding. I was like I was a street magician back in the day. I used to do like close up magic, and so they'd like me to go to tables and do that. That was my first job ever. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, do you still like do them just for fun time to time, like just magic tricks, or just
yeah.
don't have the time?
I make magic real by creating technologies that could never have existed before.
That we can all attest.
Yeah.
No, that's fun. But yeah, no, that's good stuff. And anything exciting planned do you have in the next I guess few months that you want to share with anybody, with
Yeah.
all the listeners?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like I'm working on several startups right now that are we're all trying to we're trying to see if they're going to work out. Essentially, like the reason why I work on many startups and many businesses at the same time is because you're not sure which one's actually going to hit off. You should definitely focus on one and work as much as you can on one. But when I say I'm working on multiple, it's not me literally like working all day on them. It's me trying to understand and validate the market and make sure that the idea is actually real. And nowadays it's very easy to validate. You can go through like iterate on a design within a month to see whether people are interested in buying. You can see if people pay for your solution within a month. So what I mean by that is like I'll probably have two or three on my roster that I'm testing at the same time. And then when there's some one that has some sort of signal, like people have paid me money for it, or the technology actually advanced enough for me to consider building it or something, right? Typically it's around money though. Like if people are actually willing to pay, then I go to heads down and like try and figure that out. So right now, the two that I'm working on is there's one that's a big secret, so I can't say it right now. It's very interesting, but the other one is on the horse stuff. So we applied to Y Combinator to see if we can get in, and then if we get that job, if we get not the job, if we get into YC, we'll working on new technology for horse health and taking care of horses. That's a very interesting story for another time on how that happened. But horses are very interesting creatures, and not a lot of technology has been done in that field recently for a while. And so we want to go into that and like really innovate there, and let's see if YC is interested or not. That's our last thing. Like we have LOI, which is like letter of intent, which is like people willing to pay us money to do that project. We have all the technology built, so we tested it. We know that it works, but now we have to like get into YC because we need a bit more funding to be able to mass produce the product, and that's kind of our main thing. And it's hard to do that with our own like pocket money, so pocket change. So
Oh,
that's it.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Hopefully, you get some good news. And I guess on that note, another thing that I think we often talk about is you have, as someone who's doing like mini ventures, you always have a head full of ideas that you want to do. And one of the common thing that I find is a lot of the ideas that you even just shared with me. I see like other people are doing them. So, do you? Like, how does that make you feel that you had that idea first with somebody else after like say 2 3 years they're just making a business out of it, or they're in a Kickstarter project or something like that? How do you feel about that?
Well, two things. One is I hope that they do well. Like I really do, because like I thought of it and I didn't do it, and that's bad. Like if I wanted something out of it, I should do it. There's three things. Second thing is it shows you that ideas mean nothing. Someone probably has the same idea as you do, but they're executing on it. So unless you execute on your own idea, nothing's gonna happen. And the last thing is, um, even seeing the idea executed doesn't mean that it's done. You don't know what's happening in the back end. Maybe they're like in full of debt. Maybe no one's buying it. Maybe their copywriting is bad. Something might be off, but like the idea is there. People, it's seemingly working, but you don't know if it's actually working or not, because there's a lot more that goes into business still, even past the idea stage, even past getting into people's hand. You have to see, is it thriving? Are they able to pay themselves some money? Uh, are people returning the product? Is it solving the problem correctly? So there's a lot more than just seeing the idea in the field. It's also about the kind of final push of like how long do the people buy it? Are they sharing it with their friends, like, hey, look, I got this, is really cool, that sort of thing. So it's like a lot more nuance than just seeing your idea in the field, or seeing your idea in the world, or seeing someone else do it. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess it's the main takeaway is just if you have an idea, go make it happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guess like the another thing is like this is kind of correlated to, I guess, when you talked about patents and stuff. How often do you find that people they have ideas, same kind of ideas, and they're both doing well in their respective fields? And like, do you think that's like a correlation that can exist at the same time, or it becomes kind of like kind of like securing who's better at doing it in the market, or do you think that's just normal in today's world?
So I didn't get the idea question fully.
The question is that, say there are many ideas that say two companies or two people or many people are pursuing at the same time. Someone's just doing it better than others. Do you think if you have one of those ideas, you should still go pursue it, or it doesn't matter who else
Yeah.
is doing it? You just keep your heads down and do it?
Yeah. I think if you see the idea in the field being executed on, check if people are actually buying it, or like try and find out if the people are. That means that the idea is solving the problem for someone, and then see if you can do it in a better way, in a different way, or for a slightly different market that one is not solving for directly. And that's a great place to start, because people are buying, right? So I would say, like, don't if you see that, if you see all that stuff, great, cool, that's actually great validation for you to keep going and try to build that out yourself. And then whether or not you follow a big company's model, that's, I think, don't think of the big company, think of you are a small company, go like that, be scrappy, be unique. Big companies, for example, what do they have? They have the big brand and like the reliability and all this stuff, but what do you have? You have crazy customer support. You have one-on-one. You can go hand deliver the product. You can ask them questions every day. Yo, can I make it better for you and all this stuff. That's how you will build your brand into a big brand. So act like a small brand, act like a small company, which is being careful and being thoughtful and all this stuff. You can do more risks. You can be more. You can have more personality in it. When you're a big corporation like that, then you can't do all that stuff anymore, and you have to act like a big brand there. So act like a small brand. Don't act like a big brand when you're not, and that'll help you grow as well. Cool.
Oh, that
So
makes
I
sense. Yeah.
said I had a special guest, which is not a thing, not a person, but a thing, which is, let's get this on.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. I'm gonna
The
try and set
A-
this up. I can't see
Apple
anything yet.
Vision Pro in Flash.
Oh, I can see you now. I can see through it, but you can't see what I see. What is a passcode? All right, so I'm actually using it right now, interacting with it, but you can't see anything that I'm saying, but I can see you. I can see through it. It looks like
Do you want to give a little rundown of what Apple Vision Pro can do at this point?
it can do everything. No, I'm kidding. It's still like early. It's still new. I think there are apps that are being built for it and all this stuff. Um, yeah, you can see I think one of the best things about it is that I can actually see through it. Like I can see you, I can talk to you, I can actually wear this. And like for example, like look, I have my glass, I'm holding it. I can this is my microphone right here. Like it looks like everything's blocked, but I can actually see through it because there's like cameras on the front here. Right, I'm actually like covering the camera right now here. All right, so it
Okay.
looks like but I can see everything around me, which is cool. But the things are a little bit offset than what they are because you see the cameras are here, okay? But your eyes are
Okay.
up here somewhere, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so like when I do this, it looks like I'm touching my eyeballs. But when I do
Okay.
this, it looks like I'm higher. So that's what the problem is. Like there's a little bit of an offset, which makes it a little uncomfortable to interact with things. Like I can still take my pen and I can read and I can write on all that stuff, but my brain has to interpret a lot of things. But anyways, when you ask me for apps, there are a lot of apps made, but still not enough to really like I honestly like justify buying this. So yeah,
Okay. Does How does it feel just wearing the product that you spend years making? Is
it's
it
cool.
Are you happy with it? Or-
I'm happy with what my work is, right? And I think everyone
okay.
worked really hard to do what they had to do on it. I think there's a lot of cool things about it. There's a lot of improvements to be made for the next generation. So I think until then, let's see what happens. Until like we see all the improvements being made, um, like it's still like early. It's still an early product. You can tell. I think the main risk is going to be how much do they wait until how much are they willing to wait or before they upgrade different things, and how much do we need to wait as customers before we get all the kind of features that make it good. The main risk I think Apple Vision Pro has going for it is people are not continually using it, and they kind of stop using it after several hours. Whereas like the iPhone, when it came up, people would use it and tell their friends about how cool it is and all that stuff. But for Vision Pro, it's like they use it for a couple hours and that's it. They don't even talk about it anymore. So
Okay.
I have
Well,
not used it myself too much. I just have it. I'm showing it to you. I'll show how I use it. I'll show what I designed, but actual use is not much.
what do you think that is? Is it just because there's no much use for it, or it's just like people are not used to the system yet?
I don't know, to be honest, all of the details, but I think people still don't feel like it's, they still feel confined in it. Because
Okay.
around your face, it's heavy, it's there. But when I use my computer and stuff, I can just walk away. I have the whole world still to interact with, even though I don't have displays everywhere or something, right? And on top of
Right.
that,
Yeah.
like, what is it actually doing for you? It's like more entertaining and it's making more displays all over the place. But what's the point of that? Like, yeah, you can have two displays, you can work better, but why do I need a fourth and fifth the size of a giant room? Like, I don't know. Like, the size of a display is not because they can just make unlimited like you don't see bigger than the display size that you get is kind of limited to like 20 something inches, right? Have you ever wondered why it's not more than that? It's because at the standard distance away from your body, where the displays usually are, that's about the size of the field of view that your head does not need to move left and right to see the rest of the display. And so it lets
I
you
see.
see the whole display without moving your head. And people that's more comfortable to users, right? So that's why like when you
Right.
have this giant display, you're going to push it away in space until you don't need to move your head around. You see, that's why you don't sit at the front of a cinema. Why? Even though you're right there in front of the display is bigger, right? You sit at the back because then you
Right.
don't need to move your head all over the place. You just maybe slightly. it's more comfortable somewhere there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. I guess like the main thing is do you like I guess like over time the technology is gonna get advanced, but do you think like at some point we're gonna have Vision Pro in like say 5, 10 years where they're gonna be as light and small as just like a pair of sunglasses, or do you think that's still far fetched?
I think it could happen. Like it could happen, but the question is like it's here's the problem with it. It's a very isolated thing. It's a very isolated technology. And I think that's its main drawback. If you don't have it, I can never understand what it's like. So it's very like
Mm.
you dependent. But a phone, you can be like, yo, check this out. This cool video, right? You can show it to someone, you can laugh with them, right? Or you can share pictures with each other and look at it together. But the glasses, you can't just like split it and be like, yo, here you go. Like, or you know what I mean? Like you can't both experience
Right.
it at the
Yeah.
same time unless we both have it. And so inherently it's like a very like isolating product. And I think people don't like that. I think people like to be social and share projects and like ideas and like different things with each other and like laughs. And I think VR headsets are very much like they're purpose driven. Like I don't think they have a place in the world, but it's very specific to work or to like executing on something, to be alone. But like uh, in day to day, I find it harder to imagine it's going to be around, except maybe to enable things like simple things, like say the humane kind of stuff where like it's projecting some specific information, but like actually augmenting your world and doing all that stuff and you being in this thing of and interacting with other people, I doubt it because you're still like very much solo. No one gets to experience it with you. Yeah.
No, that's fair. I guess we only have 2 minutes left. Do you want to give a quick little rundown of the cool stuff you worked on the unit, just so all of us who are kind of like design enthusiasts can kind of appreciate the design a little bit more?
Honestly, I can't because there's so much and they're all inside it. So I have to rip it
Oh,
apart
okay.
and show you. But the
No, that's
crown
fair.
on it is like one of my designs. The inside is like some alignment stuff that I worked on. How the connector, how the sides plug into the system, those kind of things. So yeah, there's a lot of parts I worked on, and I think it's hard for me to say just open up iFixit and just look at a part I probably worked on it.
No, that's fair. I think you should do a collab with like a jerry rig everything, or I fix it maybe,
Oh yeah,
so we can kind of give us a good rundown. But yeah, no, that
yeah,
was very cool to kind of see, and
yeah.
but yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cool. We'll catch you guys all next week when we talk about the next topic. And I think next time we'll look forward to the topics as early as now so we can prepare you for what's to come next week too. But until then, keep building. It's cool to see you. And if you have any questions, you can comment below. And if you have any future that we can address, you know, what's it like to work at Apple? What's it like to be in Silicon Valley, work on startups? What are the different lessons learned? How to improve your career? Like all that kind of stuff. We're here to help. And if you are also interested in like how to build products from the ground up, how to sell them, market them, we've actually done so many things, Sohan, that it's hard for us to say, yo, this is the one topic we work on, but specifically around Silicon Valley, how to get startups going, how to get products sold, that kind of stuff. Let us know. We're here to help. All right. Anyways, until next time, it was good chatting with you today. We'll catch up later.
For sure. Take care.
See ya.